Star Wars 7x7 episode 2802. It's a Spinner Sunday, which means we are going to be talking about a particular comic situation, and it is a doozy. It is Trail of Shadows, the High Republic miniseries from Daniel Jose Older, the Jedi noir, if you will, which just wrapped up and also leads right into the end of Phase 1 of High Republic storytelling. This is a full spoiler review. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So detective stories are very fun, for me at least. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy and have for many years, and I gotta say, Daniel Jose Older has created a whopper of a detective tale out of the events of the Rising Storm, basically. This all starts with how Loden Greystorm was calcified, I guess is the best word for it, by what was being referred to as the Leveler, but has a different name, which we'll get to in a moment. And so Emmerich, the Jedi investigator sicked on this, is tasked with figuring out just exactly what happened. Emmerich Captor, to give the full name, and Sian Holt, meanwhile, is a private investigator who had a partner in private investigation, but who had also had some sort of criminal background and may have been going straight, but it looked like he wasn't, and it turned out that he was actually an undercover operative for the Galactic Republic. I did say at the top this is full spoiler, and this really is full spoiler. So let me summarize for you, and honestly, even with the summary, I think you're still going to want to read this series. If you're into the High Republic, yeah, it's kind of a must read. It's not a must read in the sense of, yeah, you know, you'll still understand the general gist of the whole High Republic storytelling arc if you don't get this one, but the stuff about the Leveler is actually pretty amazing. So I'll summarize it this way for you. The attack on Starlight Beacon that we see in The Fallen Star, well, there are a lot of elements to this plan. One of those elements was to have a second convoy of Nihil ships show up at Starlight Beacon with additional creatures that mess up the Jedi, basically. And there's actually a little bit of an issue with that, which we'll get to a little bit later as well. And Dr. Uttersound, the Chatter fan, who is, you know, the evil doctor that works with Marchion Ro, he is on this convoy, but he's actually going to double-cross Ro and the Nihil. He is trying to sell these creatures to someone on the black market and make a ton of money to pay off some medical school debts. And the underworld character that Uttersound is using as a seller's agent, that's the person that the Republic knows about and a Republic operative got killed for. And there's another Republic operative who goes to try to meet with this seller's agent as well and is jumped by the Nihil. And if you are aware of the fact that Senator Staros is working with the Nihil, as is seen fully and completely revealed in The Fallen Star and also appears in one of the short stories in Star Wars Insider, well, Staros also appears in this series as well, and Emmerich has suspicions that there is a leak in the highest levels of the Republic that is getting information to the Nihil, and yeah, that's on Staros, so it's kind of a fun thing to be aware of from other storytelling. So it turns out that Uttersound actually is trying to sell an unknown number, but multiple of what were attacking the Jedi, which, according to some parchment from somebody who had been or was a Jedi, you know, whether alive now or just no longer a Jedi, the things are referred to as Shri Ka Rey, or the Nameless. And the means by which they are able to do what they do is still not understood. Another name that they are apparently known by are Eaters of the Force, and there's some supposition by Emmerich that maybe there's some sort of chemical reaction that is transmitted through the Force for this thing, but they are able to, by the end of this, board Starlight Beacon as it is in flames and listing and about to, you know, go down down and crash in the planet. They're able to go on board, find one of these nameless, and actually cut a claw off it, and Torben Buck makes a cameo appearance, of course, buckets of blood. The creature apparently in the attack, like there's some blood on Torben Buck's robes, and so he turns the robes over to Emmerich so that way some analysis can be done with the claw and the blood. Maybe they will learn more about what the deal is with these creatures. There are some loose ends though. When they're on board Starlight Beacon trying to find out what the deal is with one of the creatures that's stalking on there, Dr. Uttersound is part of this boarding party and he is apparently left behind. They don't know what his status is. Maybe he's died along with Starlight Beacon, but probably not. You know how this goes. Then there's the question of that second convoy that the Jedi and Republic attacked, and the ship upon which some of these nameless creatures were on had sustained some severe damage, and it was potentially going to explode, but we don't know what the fate of that ship is, and by extension we don't know the fate of the nameless creatures on there either. So there's that. So it ends with a bit of a cliffhanger, if you will, because Emmerich and Sean survive and now they get to do the analysis on stuff, but we're at phase 1 of the end of phase 1 of the end of the High Republic, so we're not going to know about this until phase 3, unless phase 2 will go back in time and whatever information that Uttersound had about these creatures from some parchment that a Jedi wrote on, like if that's going to play into something in phase 2. As Emmerich says, and also as Daniel Jose Older has said in interviews, everything is something as far as these investigations go, and apparently everything is something in the storytelling here. So I imagine that there are things inside Trail of Shadows that are ultimately going to be little winks and nods at the events of phase 2 of the High Republic that we just don't yet know about. So the whole 5-issue limited series is a really enjoyable ride, and there are also a lot of other fun details in there too, like the fact that apparently some Jedi archive material has been erased about Dalna, and there's no explanation for that, but it's just dropped as a throwaway line, so we should probably follow up on that. Also, Daniel Jose Older proves that George Lucas was wrong. There is in fact underwear in space, because we see Torben Buck in his underwear after he turns over his bloody Jedi robes for analysis. Although I should also probably credit Dave Wachter and Gianna Marchisio. Pronunciations, sorry about that if I've got it wrong. They are the artist and colorist respectively for this. And as far as the nameless go, there is still one thing that I don't think has been made clear anywhere else, is just how there's more than one of them. When it was presented to us in The Rising Storm, there was just one that was frozen in a block of ice somewhere, and Marchion Ro managed to get a handle on it. And he also had managed to get a handle on some ancient artifact about which we also know next to nothing, which had been split in two, but when combined could actually control a thing called a leveler. And this other thing, the Nameless, seems to be a similar thing. It seems to have a similar effect on the Jedi, so the leveler and the Nameless are maybe the same thing, and there's clearly more than one of them. So where are they getting all of these creatures, and can they all be controlled by this other artifact about which we know very little just yet? Dr. Uttersound mentions something about it in Trail of Shadows 2, but there's still a lot more to be revealed about that. And so again, that's hopefully something that we'll find out about in phase 2 as well. And the only other thing that didn't necessarily come through very clearly, very quickly, was how Emmerich and Sean ended up developing a very close relationship. It's kind of a Keanu and Sandra kind of speed relationship, in that they're in a very intense situation and they end up very close as a result, but it doesn't seem like, just from going through it, there's a lot that supports them getting to that point necessarily. There seems to be definitely a physical attraction that shows up early, but where the emotional situation happens, like, it isn't necessarily perfectly clear. But it's fun to see them be emotionally invested in each other, and talk about how unusual that is, and Sean's reflections about being emotionally invested in somebody unattainable, but knowing that what's really important is living fully in the present moment, no matter what's going on. Like, that's a beautiful reflection to have. And so there you go. That is the top-level overview of the events of Trail of Shadows, the 5-issue High Republic miniseries from Daniel Jose Older. Yeah, his enthusiasm for the project absolutely shines through in the whole thing, and I really enjoyed the heck out of it. So that right there is going to do it for today's episode of the show. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it as always, and may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.